You're watching the Metaphysical Mentor podcast with Michael Philpott. And we are recording. Hello, Carolyn Molnar. How are you?
I'm fine, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, and I'm really happy that you're on my season 2. So excited about that. And just for let everybody know that Carolyn here was my first psychic teacher. So she was the one who really helped me develop my psychic skills. And we're going to talk all about psychic processes and development, but we may go off track too as well. It tends to happen on this podcast now. I realize it's not a scripted show. We just have two people talking, and sometimes we think we're going to talk about goes in a different direction. So that being said, Carolyn, I'm so happy that you're on.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, you know who I had on about 2 weeks ago? Do you remember John Breen?
Yes. How is he doing?
He's doing fantastic. And we had a lovely conversation because it's been a while since I actually talked to him. And he reached out about a couple weeks ago, and he found out I was doing the podcast. He says, Mike, we got to talk. And I said, okay, no problem. And of course, the topic, how we met, was through your class. And I thought it was a beautiful segue. And we had so many good stories about your class, and some really funny stories and some crazy stories too as well. So
we were listening to that podcast. What the heck have you been talking about?
Well, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. But
I remember going to his house.
That's what we talked about.
Yeah, and there was some really interesting things that would come up. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he mentioned that the house, and I totally forgot about the house. And he mentioned that you came there with a bunch of students.
Yeah, that's right.
And you guys walked the house and you sat in there. And it's like, really? I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. And he's going, yeah, because it was so active. And I was like going, okay, so what happened? He says, well, I don't remember too much. And I said, well, you're going to have to talk to Carolyn about that. And do you do normally paranormal investigations at all?
I like them. I don't do them often. But I love paranormal shows like Ghost Adventures and stuff like that. And I mean, they go to places I would never want to go to. Like no hospitals, especially psychiatric hospitals or jails or cemeteries, because I've had issues where the energy's actually attached to me, and then I got to get rid of them. So it's kind of a pain in the neck, and I don't want to do that. But I am fascinated by it. And John's house was not like that. It was just, people who lived there, ahead of, the original owners, and, and they still considered that their home. So that wasn't a problem.
Yeah, that was, I totally forgot about that house, and he was explaining to that, but we were talking about other things in your class too as well. And we're talking about our channeling class that we had together and the craziness. And I remember the first time I experienced it was in your classroom, and it was so amazing. And I was trying to figure out, if I've known John that long, I think I must know you for 11, 12 years.
At least.
I
started teaching in 2000, I believe. So
yeah.
In 21 years of teaching, and you were in there somewhere.
Yeah, I remember that. It just seems like yesterday. Like as we're talking, it just seems like I'm back in your basement. We're all sitting around the development circle. We're going into meditation, and now we start giving messages. And that was one of the things. When did it really start for you to start teaching? When did you make that decision to start teaching?
Well, I was forced into it, actually. I was an office administrator, and I worked very left-brained for vice presidents and presidents, and making sure they're on schedule, and making sure that if they need travel, that I would take care of all that, nuts and bolts stuff. And I then, of course, had children, and I decided I would go temping instead, so that way I could be with my kids if I needed to, if they needed me. And all of a sudden, I think everything just dried up, like no more contracts. And the only thing I could do was to read. And I'd been reading for friends, probably a good 20 years prior. Yeah, because I'm going into my 41st year. So yeah, I know. I started when I was 8. So yeah, I was thrown into it. And that's when it started in about 1999, and then 2000. That's when my mentor passed away, and she was my greatest teacher. She was my only teacher. And I just felt that she was always with me. And I think she was encouraging me to teach what she taught me. So that's pretty much how it went. It wasn't something that I said, okay, I'm going to do this. It was more like, you're doing it. So
Wow.
it started. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was, I'm sure glad you did it because I surely appreciate all the work that you've done in your classrooms and stuff like that. Have you ever figured out how many students went through your doors?
No, I have no idea. I
Yeah,
have no idea. Yeah.
like it's
Hun-
got, because we're just, it's got to be at least thousands of students at least. It's got to be over the 20 years.
yeah. Yeah. But some of the students, they keep coming back. So
Oh,
I
okay.
have a class right now, a mediumship class that most of the students have been with me for over 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I've got the psychic development class that kind of cycles through. So there are a lot more people who just want to learn about the gift. And then there are those who are fully dedicated that are like in the mediumship class.
Okay. So let's
Mm.
talk about the difference between the two, because I think a lot of people sometimes get confused about that because you hear a lot of people call themselves psychic mediums, and then there's mediums. Now you run a psychic development class and a separate mediumship class. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's start with the psychic development class. So what separates that from your mediumship class?
Experience. I will not allow, this is just for me, but I will not allow students, new students to go into mediumship because you're working with spirit directly. Whereas in psychic development, you're working with your guides and it's about the people that you see. So it would be reading, about love life, finances, health, anything to do with the person sitting in front of you. Whereas with mediumship, it's about linking in with the loved ones who've crossed over to the client that's come to see you. And if Uncle Joe was not a very nice person, you're going to feel that. In my mediumship, I've actually been blinded. I've had a heart attack. I've lost my hearing. And it sounds awful, right? But it's split seconds. And it doesn't hurt me. It's just more like, oh, what's that? And it's them, spirit world, saying, I was blind in one eye. There was one time I was my thumb was pricked and it was so sore, and I said, oh my God, what happened to my thumb? It feels like somebody pricked me. And the woman said, oh, that's my grandmother, she was a diabetic. So they will work with me because I've allowed it. I want this to work directly with spirit. But you can see how that could really put off a new student. So I will never have a new student in a mediumship class, not without full understanding of their spirit guides, how they work with them. And some mediums will work through their spirit guides to get to the client's spirit people. You still have to know who you're working with.
Okay.
Guides. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I've always wondered about that process. So basically you want to make sure that they're ready to understand and develop that, because you don't want them walking into, I mean, because it is crazy. Listen, I know full well how crazy it can be, and and the effects of it too as well.
Mhm.
Now,
Yes.
the one thing I really liked about your class is it really is a very good progression of information and also practice too as well. You're very much into the practicality of it. As much as we are doing learning stuff, but we're practicing the craft all the time, which I really love.
Yeah, that's the truth. I mean, practice makes perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the classroom, if something goes amiss, then I'm on it. And I can, in the moment, tweak it with the help of my guides to make it better for experience for the student. So it's very dynamic. It's constant. I remember when I first started out, I actually had to have a nap every night that I would teach. I would have a nap in the day. And what I found out was they were downloading information so that I could teach the students.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you're getting your lesson plan downloaded to you.
Yes, through the guides. I know that sounds really bizarre, but you know what? It happened for years, and now it doesn't happen so much anymore. It's actually in the moment. But a lot of my students see, I can't see directly, I can see here, but a lot of my students in the mediumship classes, there's somebody standing behind you. And I know, like in the light, and I know it's my mentor. She's always with me when I'm teaching.
Yeah. So it was a reverend. I was at Reverend
Reverend
something.
Sadie Nickerson, yes.
That's it. Because I remember you mentioned to her. Yeah. Yeah. Now, did you do your training in Lilydale? Was that what? No. How did you meet her?
I met her. It was very strange. I had a really negative message from a very well-known medium who said I was going to be marrying an alcoholic and my kids would be going to jail. And it was just horrid. It was just like I came
What?
out there with tunnel vision. And this woman was very well respected in the community. She worked with the police. She did, like cold cases and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But I'll tell you, I got out of there and I was just like, tunnel vision. I felt like I was going to faint. So we went, my sister and I, she took me to see this woman. We left and we went for retail therapy. And I was remember Eaton's department store? Remember when
Oh,
they were,
yes. I remember that. Yeah.
so I picked up a set of sheets that were twins. And what I needed was a set of doubles, but out of my mouth says, I've got to find a medium.
That's hilarious.
And the only person I can think of was my father. Now, my father was very close to the best British man. And I thought, why in heaven's name would I be thinking about him? But I thought, you know what? I'm so desperate. I'm calling. So I said, Dad, this is what's happened to me. Can you help me? And he says, yeah, I'll take you to my psychic. And I went, my psychic? You go to a psychic? He goes, yeah, I've been going for years. Oh, and it gets even more freaky. You should know what goes, both sides of the family are
Okay.
very
Hey,
much
we got time. This is what it's all about.
not
Yeah.
knowing. I didn't know that my family was so into this, but anyway, so he took me to Sadie. And I remember walking up a flight of stairs. She was standing at the top of the stairs and there was like a window behind her. And she looked like, that aura, that, imperial margarine kind of
Yeah.
look, right? And she took me into her kitchen. It was just an arborite table with, the chrome chairs. And she took my hands and I burst into tears. I'd
Wow.
never met the woman before. And she said, let's start again. And she gave me the most beautiful reading. And I thought, I wonder if I can do this,
Wow.
and I learned that I will never, ever give a negative message, ever. Because regardless of how I feel, there's a lot of power coming from a medium.
Yes.
And, you've got to take responsibility for that. And if you tell somebody, that they're going to trip over a flight of stairs and fall down the stairs, that could happen out of a self-fulfilling prophecy. May not have happened, but the medium said it. So, the prophecy happens. So I am very, very careful about what I say.
Yeah.
Very.
Yeah. And I've had other conversations with other psychics, and that's the one thing that stuck with me out of your class. Well, there's several things that stuck with me, but that was one of them, is about the negative messaging. It's always trying to leave it on a high note, always, always, always on the high note. And, even the details of the message could be, doesn't really need deemed negative, but I mean, it could be just more eye awakening, but at the same time too, never leave it on that. And I remember the other thing you taught me was give what you get. That stuck in my head. It still sticks in my head today, obviously, because I'm repeating it after 10 years. It's still in the back of my head. Give what you get. Like you always said, it doesn't make sense to you. It's always going to make sense to somebody else.
Yes. Yeah.
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 And I love that about,
Responsibility is to deliver. That's
yeah,
it.
show up and deliver. That's the main thing.
Exactly.
That's our job. Show up and deliver.
Very
Now,
good,
what are the,
Grasshopper. I'm very proud of you.
yes. Well, it's only taken me 10 years to actually get out of the psychic closet and actually do this, as
Oh,
so
I know that. I know that feeling. Like it's really scary to come out. I'm telling you.
yeah.
I remember it was actually, I was on a retreat and one of the people there was an astrologer. And she was telling me how she was, giving readings at the schools for fundraising and all that. And I thought, wow, she's really out there. And I thought, well, if she can do it, so can I.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's one of the tough things. Is like, how do you talk to your students about that? Because I know a lot of them, they want to, I mean, they're certainly developing it. They're learning, they're curious. And if a lot of them might be their life path, and this is something that they should be doing. How do you have that discussion with them?
I don't. It's their journey. So my job is to make it as normal and natural as possible, that everybody is psychic and everybody can do this. So it's then their experience and their comfort level that will decide when they open up to others. I just love when people hear that I'm a psychic medium, they go, "You're what? You look like a soccer mom." It's like, yay, thank you. Because that's what I want to portray. It's like normal, natural, everyday stuff. It's called intuition. It's called instinct, and some of us have flexed that muscle a little bit more, that we're more in control of it or more aware of it, but we all have it. Like mother's intuition, when they just know their kid's not up, they're up to something, we all have that.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I loved about you, is that ability to say that, we all have it. It's not just for the special individuals, which I always tell everybody. We're not anything special. It's just that we learn to develop it. Everybody has it, which is so true. And so how do you, when you first have your students in, what is one of the things that you have them do as part of your class? Let's say your psychic development class. What is one of the things that you have them do?
Well, of late, what's really important is to understand how prayer is very important to open and close a circle. So that way you're not keeping things open and developing. You want it closed off and finished. It also tells the spirit guides that we're ready to play, so to speak. And also meditation, extremely important, because it raises your vibration level to reach theirs. And when they can reach our level by coming down, then that's when the messages happen. So we have to get used to being in a different kind of environment.
Okay.
And then just do it. Like, just give the messages, and don't worry about feeling silly, because we all feel silly and we all feel like we're, making it up. I mean, I'm doing it for 41 years and I still think sometimes I'm just making it up. How the heck do I know this stuff?
Yeah.
So this classroom is to provide a space of normalcy.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's, it's just practice, practice, practice. I am part of their journey. I'm not their full journey. So in between class time is time for them to, watch the synchronicities, watch for the environmental messages, watch for, signs from spirit.
Okay.
And and their own personal journey just is the base. And then I just provide another opportunity for their work,
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes total sense. And, a lot of people will be listening to this and it will make a lot of sense to them too. Because this is the great thing about the podcast now, is that just reaching an audience that are a lot more open on the really kind of understand this, but they're also craving the information. So let's talk about prayer for a second. It doesn't get mentioned too much, to be honest with you. And I just want to know, what do you mean by a prayer? So what kind of prayer would we say?
Okay, well, there are different kinds of prayers.
Yes.
So for my classroom, I've got a little card and I'll read it,
Okay.
and it's not a religious prayer. It's a spiritual, all-encompassing, everybody can be included prayer.
Okay.
So, and then, when I do my message work on my own, I just talk to them and just say, please provide this, that, and the other thing. I'm looking for clarity, da, 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 da. And I give them all kinds of parameters, and please help me and be with me and protect me and all that stuff. I just talk to them. They don't like rote prayers. They really don't, because there's no heart in it. There's no thought put into it. Whereas the rote prayers for my class is different, because it's got a different purpose. It's to open the circle or to close the circle. So, God help me is a very powerful prayer.
Yeah, I remember that prayer. Yeah, it's a very, very strong prayer, because it is amazing when you went into the class. Like, again, it's you go into meditation. I know we do. Did we did the prayer first or do the meditation first? I can't remember.
Prayer first. Yes.
Prayer first. Yeah, okay, yeah. Because when you get in there, you're all sitting around, you're sitting there talking, and then you could feel the shift in the energy in the room. And as the more you were in the class, the more you instantly know that shift. As soon as the prayer starts happening, like everything just starts opening up, and then we go into meditation. And it's amazing how that prayer. Now, was that a prayer that you developed yourself, or is that something that you kind of got downloaded with?
I did have a prayer that I created on my own, and other prayers I've found along the way, and felt that they were really appropriate. So, yeah, just whatever I felt was appropriate for the kind of class. And the prayer makes the space sacred.
Yeah.
So it also invites a certain type of energy in. So don't kid yourself that you think it's all love and light over there. There is a need for protection, and prayer is that. It only allows the light in.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. There, I know a lot of people have a misunderstanding sometimes about it's all about love and light. It's spirit, spirit to spirit, but it's really not. And let's talk about the a little bit about the darkness on the other side and the importance of protection. Maybe talk about that a bit.
Well, let's even go back a little bit and to understand. From my understanding, there are 7 levels in heaven. Okay. It goes from 1 to 7. 7 being the archangels, ascended masters. The 6s are like the Sai Babas, the Dalai Lamas, the Mother Teresa's. It's not a religious thing. It's energetic. The ascended masters some of them can be there as well. And then there are the 5s that are, the ones that are on the planet now that have such love and light and are guiding people in a helpful, healthy way. And then there are people like the 3s and the 4s, which are most of us. We're here to learn to ascend upwards. The ones that are higher up can be with us, but we can't go to them. And the reason being is that their vibration level is at such a high rate. It's like looking into the sun. You would just not be able to do it. You'd be very uncomfortable. As a matter of fact, there was one time I had a Reiki attunement. I'm not a Reiki master. I just needed the attunement for my work.
Yeah.
And during the attunement, there was such a brilliant light that came in that my eyes were closed, but I had to put my hands over my eyes.
Wow.
And afterwards I said, "Did you guys see that light?" And they said, "No." Yeah. So, I mean, there's that. And then there's the 2s, the 3s, the 2s, the 1s, and so on. We are in the level that we're in according to the deeds that we have done.
Okay.
We can go up and we can go down. There is room for everybody. And what I understand is that there is always hope. And until there is no hope, there will always be the lower levels, because there's always hope that they will aspire through their free will. So yes, there is the dark side. I don't talk too much about it because I don't want it in my life.
Of course.
And so, and it's willful, people who have, I'm being corrected, it's not always willful, but the ones who are doing the ceremonies and bringing in the darker energies, that's willful. And then those who are working with things like Ouija boards and become possessed, that's not willful, but the Ouija board is a portal that brings them in. So that can happen as well.
Okay.
And they're really hard to get rid of.
Yeah, that's one of the things over the last couple of years. I've talked to so many people who talk about, energy clearings and clearing your room and clearing portals and entities and crazy stuff. And I was like, I mean, I knew a little bit about it, but I didn't really understand too much until I started really researching and understanding it. And then just in my own life, and you're realizing when you had a clearing, when you cleared your space, like it's amazing how much junk that you pick up in your daily life, but also in this work that you do, that we do.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's true. I stay in the light. I do not ascribe to any of that stuff. And as a matter of fact, I think I've asked a few students to leave because of it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because they're just not mixing well with the energy in the space.
Wow.
Yeah.
Does that happen often, or is it just maybe just a one-off?
No, I think there were 2. There were just 2.
Oh, just 2 since the last 20 years of teaching. So, wow. Well, that's great. I mean, that's good to have. I mean, that's one of the things you want to make sure you're protecting your students and your intuition and your guides and everybody else was saying, yeah, you're just like, yeah, let's not that. Cause I always wondered about that. If there's a level of discernment on your end, like you just won't allow just some random Joe Blow to come into your class and you're kind of going, yeah, I don't know about that.
Usually they take themselves out of class usually,
Oh,
because
really?
it's not working for them. But I will say this, I will give everybody a chance with psychic development,
Okay.
right? Because they're just learning about their true nature and
Okay.
opening up things that can be very helpful. And I'm doing it in a positive way. Mediumship, if I don't know the person, they have an interview.
Okay.
And oftentimes, let me tell you, they think they're ready and they're not. And
We
they
all
don't.
we all do that. I
Yeah,
know. I mean, I was always thinking I'm ready all the time.
yeah.
I can handle this, and it's like no,
No,
and
and
it's
it's interesting. People say, well, can I go to the next level? And it's like, there are no next levels. It's psychic development and it's mediumship. That's it. And then your level is according to how you progress, what you want to do within the class. So within the class, you may become the teacher because you've learned a lot, or you may be learning from somebody who has done a lot. So
yeah.
that's where the levels are.
It really is, and it really is. One of the things I liked about one of your classes, especially the mediumship class, was the chance to actually give messages all the time, like constantly working with spirit, and you're getting us in front of the class. But then you would have people come in, like people of your friends and people who used to be in your circle come in, and we do readings on them, and then you'd make us go out in public. That was like the big thing. I love that. I mean, that was like a highlight of the class, was the ability to get out of our little shell. And because it's nice, it's safe, and you make it at that nice, safe environment. And we're all like, we're giving messages, we're in the flow. But now we got to get in front of like an audience and people, and then, okay, let's do this and see what happens. And
And of course,
boy,
that takes a lot of training.
yes.
It's not the first class, let me tell you. Like, you've got to be with me for a while to do something like that. So yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's so when do you normally make the transition from the classroom to the stage work
For students or for myself,
for students?
when spirit tells me they're ready.
Okay. So
Yeah,
you're based,
I take all my cues from them. Mhm.
okay. So are you commuting with your guides, or are you commuting with their guides too as well? Or it's like a combination of both,
They're my guides.
your guides?
Yeah. And
Okay.
Sadie, she's on it, you
Well,
know. Yeah.
obviously, yeah, she's always around you for sure. That's the process of that. So let's talk about mediumship for a second. Now, we talked about psychic development. Maybe I should go back to psychic development just to go. Now, you were talking about indirect clairvoyancy, and maybe you can just touch on the different kind of clairs that we have, and then maybe we'll talk about how they differentiate in mediumship. So let's talk about the clairs. So everybody who's just listening to this and they're curious about what the clairs are, maybe you can just kind of work through that.
Well, we have physical senses, right? We can see, we can hear, we can taste, we can touch, we can smell. Well, we have the same thing, but it's spiritual. So the three most common are clairvoyance. Clair means clear, voyance, seeing. So that there are two types. There's direct, where you see an apparition. And let me tell you, I've maybe seen 3 or 4 in my entire life. Like, I started doing this work when I was 16. So that's a long time ago, let me tell you. And that is when you see them directly. Then indirect is like active imagination. So say, for instance, you're eating a sandwich and all of a sudden, boop, there's your father in your head. And you think, I wasn't even thinking about him. That's
Okay.
clairaudience indirect.
All
That's
right.
how natural and normal it can be. Then there's clairaudience. Clairaudience direct is when you actually hear a voice talk to you. I've had that happen to me once, and it was a high-pitched hello. No, hi. That's what they said, hi. So that's only happened once to me. But indirect is when you get these thoughts that just kind of pop into your head. And if it's the guides, it's short and sweet to the point. Get out of the lane, buy the bread, call your mother. They're kind of like that with me anyways. They're very short, sweet, and to the point. They don't ruffle it with emotion. So those are like thought impressions. Then there's actually, let's see, clairsentience, where when I told you, remember I got my finger pricked and I felt cold go across my face. I feel fingers in my hair or cobwebs on my face, or I've lost hearing. Or that's That's clairsentience.
Okay.
Yeah. And then clairolfaction, which is smelling. You actually smell things like cologne, roses, whatever was associated with the spirit person. Like my father had a certain aftershave. When I smell that, I know it. My grandfather, he smoked something special, not the stuff, but he was.
You never know.
He didn't need to get high, but I would smell that. I would know it was him, and nobody else smells it in the room.
Yeah. I've
And
had that
then,
experience. I've just
yep.
sort of interrupt you. I've actually had that experience. I've
Mhm.
had many of the other ones, the other Clairs, but it wasn't until maybe about 5 years ago I've actually had the smelling one. It was with my good friend, and her mother used to come through all the time. And every time we were together, she would always show up. But one time I was just sitting, and the funny thing, she smelled it too. And she remembered, and she told me about the time that was her grandfather's cologne that we smelled. It was Old Spice, because I remember having that. You just remembered those certain smells.
Sure.
And we're in the kitchen together, and she was worried about something, and it was something about do with food. And her grandfather always told her about the crazy stories living through World War II and the time that they didn't have food anyways. And she was talking about that, and I go, why do I smell Old Spice? And her eyes lit up. She goes, oh my God, I'm smelling that too. She goes, oh my God. And she started bawling. I go, what? I'm like, okay, what's going on? She goes, that was my grandfather. And then she told me a story about the grandfather. And that was the message he was saying, like, don't worry about the food. It's okay. And that was thing, but that was really trippy. And now a lot of times when we're together, I'll smell Old Spice, and she'll go and it's always seems to be when I'm around, she'll smell the Old Spice, and because
Very
he's always
cool.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have that with my uncle. He was a self-made millionaire, and he smoked cigarettes. And whenever I have a financial issue, making decisions, big time or whatever, I can smell his cigarette smoke.
No
I
way.
know that he's there. And also it used to be, it's not like this anymore, but in the beginning, it was, money was very tight. So when I smelled cigarette smoke, I knew I need to hold back on the spending, because money was going to get really tight. So yeah, it can be really helpful. And the very last one is clairgustance.
Okay.
And that's when you taste things. So I started tasting something. I'm not going to tell you what it is, because I want you to figure it out for yourself, because everybody has different ways of figuring it out. But I was tasting something in my mouth. And anyways, it turns out it had something to do with cancer. And it was only through somebody else that I realized what I was tasting, because they said, that's what you taste when you have chemotherapy.
Chemotherapy. Wow.
I didn't know. I had to learn that one. Now, clairgustance and clairolfaction, the smelling and the tasting, are usually the last ones to come in. The clairvoyance, the seeing, the clairaudience, the hearing, the clairsentience, the feeling, they're usually the first, but they don't come necessarily in a certain order. It has to do with your chemical makeup. What is your strongest clair? So your spirit guides will know that, and they will work with that first. So somebody might be a major person feeling things, another person can see things, another person can hear things. And the thing that really drives me crazy is students who say, well, I got it this way, but I really think that, and I say, forget it. I said, your spirit guides are knowing, they know what they're doing, and they're working with you as best as they can. And because you are a certain way, you're going to get the messages clearer. You will get the other gifts as time goes on, but give them a break. They know what they're doing.
Wow. Yeah.
Don't,
So does that change over time? Have you noticed, like, with your own abilities, like you switch
yeah.
from, clairvoyancy to clairsentience, or you find that your clairvoyance is stronger one day or 1 month, and then your claircognizance comes back in? Like, do you find that it switched back and forth, or does it just kind
Got
of,
to do with the spirit.
oh, it does, eh?
Yeah. So if they find that it's easier to talk to you through pictures, they'll do that.
Okay.
So the more open you are to all the gifts, all the clairs, that gives them more to work with.
Okay. So they can basically, you can confirm it several different ways. So you can feel it, you can hear it, but also you can see it too as well. So you're getting more confirmation on the information. So it's not just a picture of a piece of pizza. You smell the pizza, you'll hear the word pizza, and you'll see see pizza. So it's just confirming all 3 ways of doing it, or 4 ways, or 5 ways, whatever,
You
whichever
might even
spirit.
taste it too. Yeah.
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 So with that too as well. So in those processes, now that's part of the base of mediumship. Now there's always that thing that I remember you saying that not all mediums are psychic and not all psychics are mediums. So maybe you can clarify on that, what that really statement means.
Well, it's different bands of energy. That's the best way I can explain it. It's not better, it's not worse, it's just different. And some people are terrific psychics and they're happy to stay. I remember one student, she was in my psychic development class and she got a spirit person. She totally flipped out. She just told, I said, I saw somebody. And I went, okay, let's talk about this. Like she flipped into mediumship and she never wanted it. It was so, but you know what? She became a really great medium and she was with me for years. So I don't know why I told you that story, but you know, it's also spirit will kind of test you. So, you know, you think you're a great psychic and you are, and then all of a sudden, boop, here's a spirit person. What are you going to do with that? They usually do it in the classroom. So, you know, you've got the support of your fellow classmates and me, and we'll just walk you through it. So, and then mediumship is about not only your guides, but spirit people, which is a different energy altogether. So psychic is really honing in on people and their aura.
Okay.
Whereas mediumship is spirit people, different energy.
It's almost like they're flicking a different switch. It's like a different switch that they're connecting to different, like you said, like it's a different energy. Like obviously we're dealing with people who have crossed over in spirit, and also and then the psychic process is more about the individual that's in front of you. So it's a little bit closer connection. So it's a little bit of just picking up the different, I guess, bandwidths, if you would think about it that way and pick that up.
Well, it's interesting that you say flip a switch because, you know, not every reading is psychic and not every reading is mediumship. It could be both. And I could be coming in with, you know, psychic stuff, and then they'll go say, well, what about Uncle Wilbur? And it's like, flip, you know, it's like, oh, okay, we're somewhere else now. It's a different energy.
Okay. Do you find that when you are giving messages for people, like, are they like specifically for mediumship? Or do you have to say, okay, is this going to be a psychic reading or is this going to be a mediumship reading? Or you just kind of say the reading is the reading. So whatever shows up, whoever shows up, that's what's going on.
Okay, so I asked them to write questions down because we don't have a lot of time and I want to fill the time as much as I can. If they say, well, just give me anything that comes to you, I feel like I'm bouncing all over the place. It feels very nebulous and not evidential at all. So I asked them to write questions down and I asked them to send me photographs of their loved ones in spirit or those people here on the earth plane. And when I see the photograph, I can feel the energy, I can sense the energy, and then I can hone in because, you know, people think that it's like a bank queue over there, you know, that everybody like, you know, okay, it's my turn now. No, it's every man for himself. What? She can hear me? All right, I'm going to take this time and I'm going to just jump right in. And I've had that happen where I've got two spirit people talking at the same time, never met them before, you know, and it's like dueling banjos. And I say to my clients, you're going to have to decide who's talking here because I can't stop. I just have to keep giving it. So, yeah.
So how would you negotiate that in stage work? Say you're on a stage. I mean, obviously it's probably happened to you where I know you've always talked about how you get like a lineup of people. And I've had that with you where it's like, there's like a lineup of people and you can feel them and you just feel this lineup. So if you have two spirits coming to you during a reading and they're both kind of like, you know, I want to talk to her. How do you kind of negotiate that?
I just say one at a time, just give me one at a time. And really, that's when my guides need to come in and just kind of make the bank queue.
Okay.
What really is crazy making is I remember there was one reading, I was doing it in front of like a very large crowd. And I looked over and I said, you have 5 people in spirit. And they're like, I said, you've got a brother, an uncle, your father's in spirit. There's a female here and there's somebody else. And they're all talking at the same time. Well, they burst into laughter because they said, that's my family.
Wow.
I was not, for them, I was not going to try it and discern who's talking because they would have figured it out. And because I had 5 people going, I wanted to get as much in as possible. And if I started trying to pick it apart, then I wouldn't have gotten through as much as I did. So sometimes I just most often I leave it up to spirit.
Yeah, just leave it up to spirit. And again, that develops over time, right? Like you have to really develop a trust with your own guides, but
Oh,
just
yes.
trust in the universe too, as well, or like, God or source to kind of have your back as you do this type of work, because it's so involving. It's so emotionally draining for both individuals, as yourself reading, but also for the individual too, because it's such a release of emotion that could happen during this. It could be so profound in the healing journey. Like, what
Yes.
is your experience with that too, as well? How profound do you find the messages from spirit?
As profound as the person can manage.
Okay.
Now, I've had an array of experiences where, I can get it right down to the color of the button on their shirt. And that's because the sitter is open and available to that.
Okay.
And other times I've had milk toast where it's just love and light. I love you, and a little description of the person is because these people are in such deep grief that the spirit world does not want to make it worse for them. There is an intelligence with these spirits, and I just have to go with what's given to me and trust that. And there are some times that people are not happy because they wanted to know the color of the button on somebody's shirt.
Yeah.
But if spirit's not going to tell me, I'm not making this stuff up. I go by what they tell me and what they think is needed.
Do you
And
find,
so
sorry to interrupt, do you find that, because I got this train of thought now, just from my own experience, where you have people that want to know the cause of death? Because there's a lot of mystery around the cause of death. They really want to know what happened or why it happened. Do you find a lot of people still asking those questions when they come for your mediumship readings?
it depends on the circumstance, especially if it's a situation where they don't have the autopsy yet, or it's a suspicious death or something like that. What makes me crazy, and I'll never answer, is when am I going to die?
Really? You get that question?
Yes. Or when is somebody else going to die?
That's bizarre. Why would somebody want?
The will.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I
So
never
I
even thought. Yeah, wow. That's,
I say, when they ask us, I have no idea, and I'm not going to answer that.
geez, I can't believe people would actually come to you to say, hey, hey, when's Uncle Jim going to die? And they're just thinking
Well,
about the
yeah,
will. That's crazy.
it's creepy. So I had actually a situation where it was the death angel, and I didn't know it was her. She was gorgeous. She's very gothic, black lace, very almond-shaped eyes, very long. Everything went long about her, and she glided. And she actually, I closed my eyes, and the client was sitting right in front of me, and I saw her coming towards me, and the client in this vision her back was to me. And the angel came and took her hand, turned her around, and took her back. And I
Wow.
looked at the client and I said, I am so sorry, but I have really nothing to tell you.
Wow.
And I didn't really understand what was going on, but there was nothing after that. So I knew that there was nothing to tell her. And I spoke to a medium, actually a friend of mine from England, and I said, this is what happened to me. What is this? And she said, oh my God, you've had a visit from the death angel.
Really? Wow.
And I said to my guides, don't you ever do that to me again. Oh man, I lit into them. I said, I don't want to know about death. I don't want to know about, when people are leaving, because life is for the living.
Yeah.
That's it. So don't put that in front of me again. And they never have. They never
Wow.
have. Mhm.
Yeah. It's always interesting because yeah, sometimes I feel like I'm so in control a lot of times when you do the reading, but a lot of times I realize I'm not in control at all. I'm just a vessel for them to kind of do their work through. And
Yeah.
it's like for that experience, I'd be like, oh, what? I
Yeah.
didn't sign up for that.
Well, here's the thing. As a medium and as a psychic, you have to set boundaries.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning with a message. I'm not going to be in a grocery store with a message for some stranger that's walking by me. I just will not put up with that. They know not to do that to me, because what am I going to do? That's like psychic assault, right?
Yeah. That's
You
so
don't go
true.
up to a stranger and say, your mother's here and she wants you to make sure that you pick up a couple of loaves of bread because you're out of bread. I mean, come on,
Yeah.
right?
Wasn't there a TV series about that? I won't say any names,
Let
but
me tell you, there are waivers.
yeah, I believe that.
So when the people are finished with this moment, all the producers are out there with the waivers. Please sign, please sign, please sign. And another thing too is anything that is perfect has been edited.
Oh, of course. I've worked in television. I
Yeah,
understand that.
it's
Yeah.
edited. It's not perfection. It is a process.
It's definitely a process. Now, is there any other pet peeves that you have, with the whole psychic mediumship world? I know we
Well,
talked earlier about that. Let's talk about a few of them.
expectations on the client. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. What is the code word for my husband? My husband and I have a code word. What is it? I
Oh
said,
my
well,
gosh.
if your husband's not going to tell me, I have no idea. One of the mediums I know, she says, I stopped taking tests when I graduated university.
Yeah. Like the
But
testing.
people
I
think that
hate
we
that.
mind read. We don't mind read. We
Yeah.
are a vessel by which information flows through us. That's it, people. It's hard enough trying to grab information from the spirit world, and then you get something like that. It's like, come on.
Yeah. Like one of my comebacks is somebody, like when I talk to people and they go, "Oh, you're a psychic medium," it says, "Okay, tell me something about me." And the automatic response is, "I know, you're an asshole." And it works every time. It just shuts them up. It's like, yeah, well, you're an asshole.
Well, I probably say you're a poo-poo face. I would
Yeah.
say that. Oh, Michael. But you know what that tells me? They really don't know what this is.
No.
They really don't understand it.
Yeah. It
Stop
really.
making fun of us. Stop
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I really think that it's over the years, it's really changed. I know a lot of people's perception is, I mean, sure, granted, there's just people who just are uneducated and they haven't experienced that. It's like, I know I have a lot of friends who talk about aliens and angels, and I've never, I mean, obviously we work with spirit. I never had an alien encounter. I've never had an angelic encounter.
Oh, yes, you did. Don't you remember the channeling classes where we had aliens coming through?
I don't remember that. You have to fill me in, because I know John and I talked about that channeling class and a lot of the crazy stuff, but I don't remember
It
any of
wasn't
the.
crazy. It was one of the
Well,
guys.
for my first experiences, it was crazy.
It was one of the guides was an alien.
I don't remember that, really.
And I also had a dragon come through somebody.
Okay.
Like, yeah, reptilian kind of energy. Yeah. And they were fine. It was great. They were high energy and it was fine. Like, here's the thing about guides is that they will come through in the way you can accept them.
Okay.
So if you see them as white robed, long bearded men or fairy-like red-haired, blue-eyed women, and they're not, they will come through that way so that they don't scare you.
Okay.
They're not evil. They're not bad. They are there to help you.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because that was one of the things that I was just like, I'm in my head, I've never, I mean, I may have experienced an angel. I just didn't recognize it. Hopefully I will recognize it.
You'll recognize it through the eyes.
Okay. That's good to know.
I was in a food court in a big mall in Toronto, and there was a woman sitting in front of me, and there were no chairs except right where she was. And I said, "May I take the chair?" And she said, "Yes." And I looked at her and her eyes did not match her. She was disabled. She lived in a group home, but her eyes were as clear as ice.
Really?
And she began to tell me about how important love is, and that love is the most important thing of all. And when you think about, our work, that's what it is about. It's about love and compassion. And there she was in the food court, a disabled person. I never saw her again.
That's crazy.
Another time there was a gentleman, he was probably 6'5", and he was at least a grandfather to me. And they're not normally 6'5" at that generation. And he proceeded, I was in the vegetable department and I was about to pick out a pepper, and he said, "Hi, my name's Walter." And I looked and I said, "Hello, Walter." And he started talking to me, and I could look by his eyes. He was not of this world.
Wow.
Yeah. And he proceeded to tell me stuff about the stock market, and dumb me, I didn't write anything down. And he says, "I'm in here all the time and it'll be nice to see you again." I've never seen him again.
Wow.
And it's sometimes I think it's those moments just, they come in incognito just to let you know we're with you. We walk among you.
Yeah.
Isn't that wonderful? And Michael, watch the eyes.
Okay. I'm definitely going to be paying attention now. I'm definitely going to be paying attention to the eyes and definitely looking for that. And yeah, it's funny enough, as we're having this conversation, the next couple of days, I'll probably go, oh my God, Carolyn, I can't believe it. You're so right. I saw somebody, I can't believe I'm freaking out right now, but this is awesome. And I think that's the one thing I loved about this is just the random awesomeness of these encounters. And it really, I think for myself, it just gives me that sense of faith. And sometimes, when we lack that faith, we're down on our what hope is, and we're just lacking those days. We're just questioning everything. We're going, why are we here? What are we doing? This place is a shitstorm. And then you just have one of those moments, and then just kind of goes, oh, yeah.
I had one of those moments. I was going to my chiropractor, and I was like, I'd had a really rough time of it. And I just said, why am I doing this? I give up. I really give up. I can't do this anymore. And on a sign at what was it? Someone Edwards. It's like a financial group.
Okay.
It said something to the effect of, you are on track. And On Track is my business name.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And it says, you are on track. And I went, okay. It's like, that was the message. You are this.
Yes.
Keep doing it.
Yeah, just keep going. Yeah, because there are a lot of times where, when we're doing this work, it can be a really struggle. And a lot of people don't understand that it can be a struggle, just emotionally and mentally, but also financially too, as well. It can take a toll on us.
Yeah. Don't get into it for the money. Honest to God.
Yeah.
Yeah. And don't get into it for being famous either, because spirit will have nothing to do with that. I mean, there are famous mediums that trip upon it. It's not their reason to be. It just, they had opportunities that were presented to them. They did not push for it. But if you're pushing for it, you're going to stumble and fall, because this is not about money, and it's not about being famous. It's about being able to serve, just help. That's what this is about. Just do the best you can and help the best you can. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really important message for people to understand. Like, I mean, we all want to basically pay our bills and things like that, but that level of it, and I know I've got myself caught into that, because I actually start, when I start thinking about the money,
it goes away.
It goes away. It dries up. And when I don't think about it, and I focus on my service, it's just a snowball. It's just a snowball. And it's like, oh crap. Okay, here we go. I got to get ready for my next reading. Here we go. And it's amazing how that happens. And, there's so many stories I've heard about different psychics and, over the years, and they focused on that. I remember reading, I think it was John Edward book, and he talked about the same thing. When he was focusing on the money, the readings would dry up. When he didn't focus on the reading, that's when he was at his busiest.
I'll have to tell you, I don't care what anybody thinks, he is amazing. And I base my work on him. The fact that he is so evidential. I won tickets to Crossing Over.
Oh, did you really?
Yes, I did. And I took 3 other people with me. We flew into New York, went to Queens, pardon me, and sat in his audience. And he was behind us. And I turned to my sister and I said, he's right behind us. I know it. And there was a guy up there revel-rabbing and getting people all excited. And finally you could hear John saying, just let me up here. Because, the spirits are all on him.
Yeah.
And we were sitting almost the second to the last row up. And there was a row of women right here in front of us. And he went immediately to them and he said, you guys are all connected, not by family. And why am I getting a tooth? And I turned to my sister and I said, they are 9/11 survivors. There is no chance in hell we're getting a message today. They need the message.
Yeah,
and
of course.
Sure enough, all of them had come because they were 9/11 survivors. And John Edwards said, I will not do a show on 9/11 survivors. I will not do a show. But these guys came in on their own. They wanted to come in. Yep. So that service.
Yeah. There's a lot of times where he got a lot of grief over the years. And
Sure.
yeah. And I mean, when you're on the top and you're out in the public, you're going to get scrutinized and you're going to be, picked apart and stuff like that. And to be honest with you, I mean, that is a lot of my own fear too, as well, is to be scrutinized and be picked apart. And I know friends of mine just says, screw it. If it's meant to be, just go ahead and just keep focusing
Just
on
do
the
your
service.
work. Yeah, just do your work. You are not going to make everybody happy.
Yes.
And, a really, really, really good psychic / medium, or one or the other, is 80% accurate. Really good.
Wow.
Yeah. So anything, there's 20% that can be misinterpreted. Like when you get thrown an apple pie, spaghetti, and a muscle car, there's a chance that you can screw up, because what the heck does that mean? Right?
Yeah, exactly. And I've got those sort of things. And the one thing I always go back, I always refer back to my teaching, is you give what you get. And I always say, because because our analytical mind will try to make sense of that. Or what is that? And you ask the question, like you always say, ask the question. And I remember asking the question, I'm not getting anything, but hey, I'm getting this, I'm getting that, I'm getting the apple pie, I'm getting the spaghetti, and I'm getting the pizza. I don't know what it makes sense, but and then all of a sudden, like you said, it won't make sense to you. It'll make sense to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing that makes me nuts about this work: symbols.
Oh,
I
yes.
said to Spirit, why don't you just tell me? Just tell me. Why do you have to keep throwing stuff at me? And they said, we work so quickly that's the best way we can get the information to you.
Yeah.
They're telepathic beings. They're very quick, very fast. So they're going to give spaghetti, apple pie, and a car. That's their language.
Yeah. And, it's, again, that was one of the things it was tough to discern, is just the imagery and the symbolism, what it means and stuff like that. And I think it was, I'm pretty sure it was in your course. You talked about, doing your symbol log and developing your own symbol log, because spirit will work with certain symbols with you, which is really key and important, because like I say, a rose for me may be love. A rose for you might be something else, but a rose, like my spirit guides will use rose as something that means specific. So as soon as I see that rose, that's what that means.
Yes, that's right. And that frustrates students because they don't have an answer right away. But the whole idea is, this is a journey, and you have to learn how your spirit guides work with you. It is a personal experience between them and you. And they use all the files in your head, all the memories that you have. It's personal to you. So therefore your symbols will be personal to you, because it's from your memories, right?
That makes sense. Yeah, I always often wonder about that, but as you mentioned that, I think you did talk about that, is they're using the imagery and information that you already have stored in your noggin to make it a lot easier for you to process.
Yes.
So it makes sense to you. So if you see something that's relevant to you, that's probably what it is that relevancy.
Yes. And here's the other thing too that makes students kind of stumble. They see their own story and they think, well, no, this is not about me. It's about the person that's sitting in front of me. But everything in that story is theirs. They're just using what you know for them. So you can discern it easier than if they were to show a father getting into a car and, be leaning on the horn and all that. You see it, the reader would see it as your own father getting into a car that you recognized and remembering leaning on the horn, and and it's this parallel journey to the client. Yeah. So it gets readers kind of tripped up because they think, well, wait a minute, this is not about me. And you're right, it isn't. It's just your memory that's being used to give the message. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes total sense. It makes total sense, because, I know I actually, as being one of your students, I fully understand that process, because that's what it was. It was just like, why am I seeing my grandmother? But when I see my grandmother now, I see exactly where she is. So I remember her being in the kitchen. I remember her wearing an apron. So when I see that image of my grandmother, I know it's not my grandmother coming through. We didn't have a strong connection, but I recognize the image. It's the same description of the grandmother of the person who I'm sitting with. So is your grandmother, does she wear an apron? Was she always in the kitchen? Was she always baking like this? Did she wear glasses? And who's the older lady with the glasses? It's like, oh, that's my grandmother. And that's how I get to know. And sometimes I will see them. And then obviously, you know how you talk about, once you get that click, that link, that real fast link, and then all the information starts pulling in.
Yeah.
Once you finally get that yes from the
Mhm.
client, and then it's like, shh.
And you know why? It's because the spirit's seeing if they are being recognized by the sitter. And they also need the sound of the voice of the sitter in order to connect, because they don't see us like you and I see each other. They see our soul and they hear our voice. Our voice print is like a thumb print. It's unique. So as soon as they hear the yes, then they know, okay, all bets are off. Kaboom.
Wow.
Mhm.
That's
So these people that sit there like this,
drives me nuts.
yeah, you can't give them a message
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they're not cooperating.
Yeah. And I guess that's part of the struggles too, is they want the information, but they don't want the information, and they don't want to help.
They don't want to give anything away.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. God forbid you know anything about me, and that's
Yeah.
that's the crazy nutty stuff.
Mhm.
But you know what, Carolyn, we're almost out of time.
Oh my gosh, this has been so much fun.
It
Michael,
it
what the
always,
heck?
I know it goes by so fast, and I started my timer late, so we're probably a little bit over, but it's and we could
I've had
probably
fun.
chat for an hour more probably.
Mhm.
And I always enjoy talking to you. I always do.
Thank you.
And I
It's
always
been,
enjoyed your classes too, as well. And that being said, Carolyn, if people are listening to this on the World Wide Web or on the Anchor FM, Apple, or Spotify, or you're watching the YouTube video,
oh my God, I'm getting tired just listening to all this.
I
Oh,
know. So where can they find you?
well, if you want to learn more about the classes, do subscribe to my e-newsletter. It's a monthly thing. As a matter of fact, it went out today, and there are announcements coming up about the classes that are starting in the new year. You can find me www.carolynmolnar.com. Also, I do have a YouTube channel, has over 400 clips of all things spiritual. And it's been really helpful to a lot of my clients, so that they can get more information outside of a reading. And I'm on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. So you'll find me, Carolyn Molnar.
Yeah. And I'll have all that information in the description below. So whether you're watching the YouTube video, just have to scroll down a little bit, below there. And also, if you're listening to the podcast too, as well, in the description of the podcast and the title and in the information too, I'll have Carolyn's information in the description too. So if you're wanting to reach out to her, get a reading, but also maybe get some classes. Now you're doing online classes I take too as well?
Yes, and they're going very well. I'm very pleased. You know how it was always in person. I was very much in person, but you know what? The energy goes through the computer, and we have Zoom classes, and
Brilliant.
they've been successful. I'm very pleased. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. That's one thing I did enjoy. I love the physical actually being in the class, but the online process too as well. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you can join the class, which is phenomenal. You'll have an amazing teacher. I know you've helped me out, and I owe a debt of gratitude to you and your teacher, Sadie, too, as well, because it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. So I appreciate that. And I'm very, very thankful for you being on the show today.
Thank you, Michael.
Well, that being said, everybody, I'm just going to close off the podcast here. This has been the Metaphysical Mentor Podcast with Michael Philpott. Thank you so much for joining me, and goodbye for now.